There's something strange about old mirrors. They don't just reflect what's there, they whisper what once was. 12-year-old Jessica never liked the one in her bedroom. The frame was chipped, its corners soft with time. And no matter how much she cleaned the glass, her reflection always looked a little off, a little too pale, a little too quiet. And the scar, it never sat right. A jagged pink trail running from her cheekbone to her jaw. A reminder, they told her, of a fire she never remembered. The house had burned down when she was a toddler. She survived. Barely. That's what they said. That's what they always said. But sometimes, at night, she'd press her fingers to the scar and close her eyes, and instead of flames, she saw water, cold, dark, endless. Her parents would never talk about it for long, just long enough to make the silence feel louder, just long enough to make Jessica stop asking. And then one morning, a newspaper left out on the kitchen table. A page her mother folded too quickly. A photograph glimpsed for only a moment. A little girl. Same red hair, same age, same eyes. No scar. Jessica felt something shift inside her that day, like the floor had quietly dropped out from under her, and no one noticed she was falling. She didn't know it yet, but that photograph wasn't just a face in the paper. It was a breadcrumb. The first crack in a carefully built lie. Because what burns can leave scars, but what's buried, what's taken, what's stolen, leaves something far deeper. This is her story. And it begins not with the fire, but with what came after the smoke had cleared. When the truth, quiet and cruel, began to whisper back. And once you hear it, you can never unhear it. The kettle in the kitchen had just begun to hiss when Jessica caught her mother staring not out the window, as she often did, but at the newspaper in her hands. Catherine's lips moved, silently mouthing something on the page. Her eyes didn't blink. She gripped the paper too tightly, like it might float away. Jessica watched from the hallway, barefoot on the cool tile, a sliver of light cutting across her scarred cheek. The kind of morning light that makes everything feel softer, even lies. But that moment, the way her mother folded the paper up so quickly, too quickly, and tucked it under a stack of magazines, left a sound in the room that didn't belong to morning. It sounded like a door locking. Jessica's home was quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the thick kind, heavy with smiles that don't quite reach the eyes. The walls were full of kind things, framed photos, handmade crafts, family drawings from first grade, but none from before that. Nothing from before the scar. She'd asked once, years ago, "Do we have any baby pictures?" Her father, James, had smiled in that way grown-ups do when they want to talk about anything else. The fire took most of our memories. "Sweetheart," he'd said, "but not you. You're our miracle." Miracle. Funny how the word felt like both a gift and a leash. She wore it like a second skin, alongside the real one, the one that bore the mark. The scar ran across her left cheek, like a memory someone had tried to erase but couldn't. A ghost she was forced to carry. It made the bus ride feel longer, the locker hallway louder, the mirror meaner. She'd stopped looking into mirrors altogether by age 9. By 12, she had learned exactly how to tilt her face so the light got the better side. Her parents always told her she was beautiful. And maybe they believed it. Maybe they needed to. But Jessica never did. Not really. Not when strangers flinched. Not when kids whispered behind hands. Not when teachers hesitated on her name during roll call, as if her face came with a footnote. And not when her mother clutched that newspaper like it might open a wound too deep to explain. But that wasn't the end. The bus ride to the dermatologist had become routine. The same cracked sidewalk, the same receptionist with the tired eyes, the same sterile hall. But that morning, something tugged at her, something left unfinished. As she stepped off the bus, Jessica's eyes got a flash of color, the familiar blue masthead of the Morning Chronicle, displayed outside a small kiosk just across the street. Her feet moved before her thoughts did. A handful of coins, a thank you murmur to the old man behind the counter. She held the newspaper like it might tremble in her hands. It smelled like ink and dust, and something older. She flipped through quickly at first. World news, local crime, the kind of stories her mom always skimmed with a sigh. Then a headline small, bottom corner of the page barely visible unless you were looking. Missing child, Jenny Clark, age 2, when last seen, still missing, 10 years later. Jessica stopped breathing. The photo was in black and white, but it didn't matter. The child stared out from the image like a mirror tilted backward in time. Same wild red curls, same tilt to the chin, same eyes. But no scar. Jessica stared so long, her fingers began to tremble. Her thumb brushed the image like she could feel it, like skin and ink could somehow meet. For a moment, it felt like looking at someone who had lived her life without the wound, without the whispers, without the lies. A version of herself that never happened. The noise of the street dulled around her. Even the sound of her own heartbeat seemed to hush. And somewhere in the quiet between thought and breath, a question formed. Not sharp, not loud, just a whisper. But it would not go away. What if that's me? She folded the paper carefully, pressing it between the pages of a school workbook in her bag. No one would notice. No one ever looked that closely. And when she walked through the glass doors of the clinic, the scar on her cheek felt heavier, like it finally knew it wasn't telling the whole story. And the reflection in the window didn't blink back. Not right away. Jessica sat under the bright exam light, the sterile chill of the dermatologist's office creeping up her spine. The overhead bulb buzzed faintly, casting a harsh glow over the metal tray beside her. Her feet dangled from the paper-lined table. her sneakers swinging in slow, uneven arcs. She had been here too many times to count every visit a repetition of dreams, comparisons, and quiet reassurances. But today felt different. Maybe it was the folded newspaper in her bag, or the photograph still burned behind her eyelids. Or maybe it was the question she could no longer silence. Dr. Smith stood close, his brow furrowed as he gently examined the scar along her cheek. His gloved hands moved with the same clinical care they always had. But Jessica saw something in his eyes this time. A flicker of uncertainty. Dr. Smith. Her voice came out smaller than she meant. "Can I ask something?" "Of course, Jessica," he replied, removing his gloves with a snap. She hesitated, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Then, if I was in a fire, why is the scar only on my face?" Silence. The question hovered in the space between them, heavy as fog. Dr. Smith blinked. "Well," he said slowly, "the face does have thinner skin. It's more delicate. Burns tend to affect it more noticeably. But not only there. Right?" Jessica cut in. "Wouldn't I have scars on my hands, my arms, something else?" Another pause, longer this time. Dr. Smith glanced down at his notes, as if searching for an answer that wasn't written there. "That's," he began, his voice faltering for the first time. "That's unusual. You're right." Jessica felt the floor shift beneath her, not literally, but in the way the mind does when it loses something it once clung to. She nodded slowly, her throat dry. "That's what I thought." He didn't offer more, and she didn't ask again. Because suddenly, the scar didn't feel like a memory anymore. It felt like a secret. That night, the house smelled like laundry detergent and lemon-scented floor cleaner. Her parents moved through it like shadows smiling, speaking softly, as if rehearsing lines from a play they had performed too many times. At dinner, she asked about the fire. What room had she been in? How had they found her? James looked at Catherine. Catherine looked down at her plate. Then came the same lines. "We don't like to relive that day. You were so small. It's a miracle you're even here." But the way her mother's hand trembled around her fork, that wasn't part of the script. Jessica didn't push. Not yet. But she felt it. Like something in the walls had shifted. Something in the foundation beginning to crack. Later, while brushing her teeth, Jessica caught her reflection again. The bathroom mirror was fogged, but her scar cut through it. Clear, sharp, unflinching. She pressed her fingers to it, as she always did when she felt the questions rise. Except this time, the questions didn't fade. They multiplied. She didn't want to cry, so she got angry instead. She marched downstairs, the tile cold under her bare feet. Her parents were on the couch. She didn't wait. "I want cosmetic surgery," she said, her voice brittle. "Other girls my age are getting it. I saw it on YouTube. I'm tired of being stared at." James sat up. "Jess, I'm tired of feeling ugly. She snapped. It's not fair. I didn't ask for this. Catherine looked like she'd swallowed glass. We've talked about this. Sweetie, we can't afford. Then just tell me the truth, Jessica shouted, her voice cracking. Why won't you ever talk about the fire? Why won't you show me pictures from before I was 3? Silence? Her father opened his mouth, closed it again. The clock ticked. The fridge hummed. Then Catherine stood abruptly. Maybe some air will help, she said in a Maui, forcing a smile. You were supposed to go to Sophie's tonight. Right, let's drive you. It's late. Jessica narrowed her eyes. I can take the bus. No, James said firmly. Already grabbing the car keys. We'll drive. The car ride was quiet. Too quiet. Jessica stared out the window, watching the darkened houses blur past. Then, her mother reached into her purse and handed her a glass bottle of water. Drink, she said gently. You've had a long day. Jessica hesitated. The bottle was warm. The water inside still clear. She took a sip, and then another, and as the lights along the roadside grew softer, as the air in the car thickened with silence, the seat seemed to cradle her a little too much. Her limbs, suddenly heavy, her eyelids, too. She tried to ask a question, but her voice never made it past her lips. The last thing she saw was the clock on the dashboard. 6:27 p.m. And then, nothing. The hum was the first thing she heard. Low, mechanical, rhythmic, not like the gentle whir of a bedroom fan, or the distant highway sound she sometimes fell asleep to. This was closer, caged, artificial. Jessica opened her eyes slowly. Above her, the ceiling was off-white, ridged, curved, too close, too low. She blinked, once, twice, then sat up, fast, her head spinning from the movement. Everything inside her screamed wrong. The bed was narrow, the air stale. A single, dim ceiling bulb buzzed overhead, its light flickering ever so slightly. The smell like damp cushions, burned coffee, and something chemical clung to her throat. She wasn't at Sophie's. She wasn't anywhere she recognized. Outside the foggy camper window, the world was trees, dark, thick, endless. She reached for her phone. Her pocket was empty. Panic fluttered behind her ribs. Catherine. Her voice cracked. Dad? The door creaked. Her mother stepped inside, holding a steaming mug of something too fragrant to be comforting. Her eyes were red, but her expression forced calm. Behind her, James appeared, crouching slightly under the doorframe. Jessica backed up against the wall of the camper, pulling her knees to her chest. What is this? Her voice trembled. Where are we? James crouched, palms open. Sweetheart, it's okay. You fainted in the car. We just brought you somewhere quiet. You need rest. This isn't Sophie's, she shouted. You drugged me. What's wrong with you? Catherine winced. The mug shook slightly in her hands. We weren't trying to hurt you, she said softly. You were upset. We thought maybe getting away for a night would help calm things down. Jessica stood. Her legs wobbled. Calm things down, you lied to me. You've been lying my whole life. No one answered. Outside, wind scraped against the camper walls. The trees swayed like they were listening. Tell me the truth, Jessica said, her voice low. Dangerous. Right now. James turned to Catherine. Something unspoken passed between them. A look not of fear, but resignation. You were never in a fire, Catherine said quietly. Jessica froze. What? James stepped forward, the words seeming to fall out of him. There was no house fire. That's not where the scar came from. The air felt like it had been sucked from the room. Jessica's pulse roared in her ears. Then what happened to me? Catherine lowered herself onto the narrow bench. Her hands trembled now, without restraint. You weren't born, Jessica, she said. Your name was Jenny. The silence that followed was thick. Jessica felt her stomach turn. The name sounded foreign and yet too close. Catherine continued, voice cracking. You were taken from an orphanage when you were 2. Jessica stared. She didn't blink. James looked at the floor. We didn't plan it. We didn't go looking to steal a child. But one night, we were near the river. There was this warehouse fire. Screams. Smoke. We saw a man throw something out the door. Catherine whispered, a bundle. We didn't know what it was. But when we ran closer, it was you. Burned. Bleeding. Barely breathing. They were going to discard you, James said. Because you had the scar. Because you weren't perfect anymore. Jessica's hands trembled. We didn't know what to do. Catherine continued. We took you. We thought maybe you'd been abandoned, left behind. But the more we dug, the more we realized there would be no way to return you without questions. James said, without prison. So we became your parents. Catherine said, we made a home. We loved you. Jessica felt like the world was splitting in half. Her name, her face, her whole life borrowed, built on stolen breath. But you lied, she said, her voice barely a whisper. You let me believe I survived something noble, that I would. Yours. Tears ran silently down her cheek. The scar burned. You are ours, James said, his voice breaking. Maybe not by law, but by love. Jessica turned toward the window. Outside, the forest pressed in. The trees stood like sentries, tall and silent. She was a ghost of someone she never got to be. A child who vanished from one life and was rewritten into another. And now, the truth was awake. Watching, waiting. The story wasn't over. Not even close. A sudden knock shattered the silence. 3 sharp raps against the camper door, too firm to be friendly, too real to ignore. Jessica froze. James and Catherine stiffened like animals caught in a snare. From the other side came a low, weathered voice. "Hello, everything. All right in there? We don't usually see folks up here this late." The voice, a man, close. A crack of hope split Jessica open. She didn't wait. She bolted. The latch gave easily beneath her fingers, and the door flew open with a metallic groan. There, on the wooden step, stood an older man in a ranger's vest-lined face, flashlight in hand, his expression shifting from confusion to concern as he saw her. She didn't speak. Not at first. Her breath hitched in her throat. Then, all at once, "Please," she sobbed. "Help me. They're not my parents. I don't know who they are. I need help." The man's eyes widened. Behind her, James moved, quick, silent. Catherine grabbed his arm, but it was too late. He lunged forward, not at Jessica, but past her into the trees. Catherine followed. The forest swallowed them whole. 2 shadows fleeing into deeper dark. Jessica collapsed into the ranger's side, his hands gentle as they steadied her. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe now. You're safe." But Jessica wasn't sure what safe meant anymore. The world she knew had collapsed in the span of a whisper. The police lights came fast. Red and blue danced across the clearing like ghosts. Jessica sat wrapped in a scratchy blanket inside the ranger's outpost. She was shaking. Not from the cold, but from the knowing. Everything she believed had been carved from a lie. A kind-faced officer knelt before her. "We'll get them," he said. "You did the right thing." Another officer entered, holding a notepad. "We ran her face through the missing persons database. There's a match." Jessica looked up, her breath held in her chest. "Name Samantha Clark," he said softly. "She's your sister. She's 18. Been searching for you for years." Something broke loose in Jessica, not pain, but something stranger, something older. Hope. They brought her to the station, where time slowed. Coffee steamed, paperwork whispered, and then the door opened. A girl stepped in, red hair, taller, older, but her eyes were the same. The same green, the same ache, the same mirror. Jessica stood trembling. "Jenny," the girl whispered. Jessica's voice caught. "Are you Samantha?" She didn't need the answer. Samantha crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her in an embrace that felt like sunlight breaking through frost. "I've been looking for you for so long," she choked out. And Jessica, or maybe Jenny, let go. Of the fear, of the weight. She buried her face in her sister's shoulder and wept like someone being born. Not rescued, recovered. And in that moment, In the station's flickering hallway light, a scarred girl became something else. Not just found, but finally real. She used to trace that scar like it was the edge of a memory, the only piece of the past that never changed. But now, she knows it wasn't left by fire. It was left by silence, by a story no one dared to tell. And though her real name has returned to her like a ghost in the mirror, some answers still haven't. There are birthdays she'll never remember, photographs that never existed, and a family she might never find. But one voice kept calling. One sister never stopped looking. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to begin again. If this story stayed with you, let us know in the comments below. Like the video to help others find their way back to the truth. And subscribe for the next chapter when it surfaces. Because not every scar fades, and some buried truths are still waiting to be found. Soft breath out. We'll see you soon.